most seductive wheels in the world. Well, I think so. Polished alley rims, chrome wires, your spinners, your James Bond tri-shredding spinners. That's just wonderful. What could be more Italian? Except they're not. They're as English as mustard. Well, they are the mustard, aren't they? So let's have a better look at it. So we've got root Borrani, Milano. Well, that's obviously Italian. And then we've got this symbol here. And that's what we're talking about here. That is the Rudge symbol, the red right hand of God guiding the way. So it's not Nick Cave's red right hand from the murder ballads or the Ulsterman. It's as I say, it's effectively, the red right hand of God showing the way. So these are Borranis, but these are also Borranis. So there we are. So again, we got an alley rim, but this one's obviously a bolt-on style centre, chromed. So they're both Borranis. So not all Borranis are wires, and that's what we mean. Wire Borranis are Rudge, and you can see we have the symbol in the middle here. So the Rudge is the Rudge fitment. That's the style. Now Rudge was the Rudge Whitworth. So two bicycle manufacturers got together in Coventry, Whitworth and Rudge, and that's how the Rudge company progressed. Now, it's nothing to do with the Whitworth threads, which I thought it was, but it's not. It's nothing to do with them. That's another Whitworth. So we're talking about those bicycle companies, and then formerly became Rudge Whitworth, then Rudge itself, and that was about 1890. And around about the same time in 1890, Rudge Whitworth Milano was set up, and they started building these wheels under licence, and the Rudge style. So they weren't called Borrani to begin with. And what it's all about is this form of fitment. This is the Rudge fitment. And the idea is that you used to get a lot of punches back in the day, and undoing all these bolts and messing around was all very, very difficult. So the idea was that, with this one screw attachment, nut effectively, you could undo that, whip the wheel off and change it. And it's also very useful for racing if you've got to change your tyres and so on in pit stops. So that's it. So these, you don't find these produced in England. The alley rims are the Borrani bit. That's their thing. We don't really go in for alley rims in the UK. And so it run consistent with the UK Rudge firm. But the UK branch of Rudge was bought out by Jaguar just after the war. Both Coventry-based businesses, both probably suffered, with the terrible bombings of Coventry during the war. So I don't know the full history of that, but that's what happened. So if you think Jaguars always have wire wheels, don't they, and all have spinners. So again, the Rudge fitment. You also have this style of fitment on the Fiat Dinos. You also have it on Porsches, and they're always called Rudge on the Porsche, and you get it on the Mercedes Gullwing and so on, which is always called Rudge. So yeah, that's it. So we'll have a little look at how they work and what it's all about. So I'll move these because we don't want them in the way. So in your toolkit of your Ferrari or whatever, you'll have one of them, and that's for doing them up and undoing them. So obviously this as I say, it's a nut. Now, which way does it do and undo? Well, normally I have an arrow on them, but you should be able to do it without that. And I get phone calls sometimes from people to say, which way round do they go? Because they've taken them apart. They've taken the hubs off and they're putting a car back together. They don't know which way it goes on, which way the thread is. So the easiest way to remember it is, that's your wheel, isn't it, going round. So you're going forwards and your wheel's going to go that way round. And what you want is you want this to be self-tightening. You don't want it to undo when the wheel's going round with the inertia. So the inertia obviously is going to be this wheel's going that way, so the weight of this is going to be pulling backwards, trying to do up. So it's trying to do itself up like that as you because that's trying to effectively stand still, and the inertia is making it tighten continuously. So obviously you undo them in the direction of rotation of the wheel going forwards, on whichever side of the car it is. And what's helpful with these Borrani rudge spinners, the 3-eared ones, is they give you this bit, this nice one to really whack on, because you've got to really, really whack on them to undo them. So they give you that one for undoing, and then that one for doing up. So it's so you can really get a dig in there and hit them and undo them. You can get tools for working on these, that you fit on a socket type thing, but that's a different thing. We're not talking about that. So what you do is you go in the direction of rotation, so you knock that way, it undoes. So if you imagine, I'm just sort of undoing this a bit. So if you imagine as this wheel's turning around, the inertia is going to be wanting to do that up, isn't it? Like that, until it does up and breaks your finger. So that's what it's all about. So that's how that works. And we'll just whip this off. And then so the patent for this, Rudge's design, and the patent was effectively for this splined hub with 2 cones on it. So you've got a cone there and there which seats, and then on the inside on here you've got another cone where it sort of pulls up on. So you see the cone fitment there? So you've got a cone there that's inside there. So you've got 2 cones pushing together. That one pushing it onto that one. So what you've got to then have is you've got to have a good, that hub's got to be in really good condition, that one, and so is that. And if this is all stepped and horrible, then it's not going to stay done up tight because they're tapers. So you've got the splines, well, they want to be in good condition because they do your shear, effectively when this is going round, that's what's, it's helping them drive, but it's actually these cones that's bolting it together and holding it, and it's going up on the taper, which is what's locking it. So that's what it's all about. So, if you've got any play in them, it's critical that these are in good condition and those are in good condition, and they're effectively matched. So if you have a worn out one of these and put a new hub on it, it'll work loose and it'll ruin it. So you want both of them to be good condition and replaced at the same time. So that's as simple as that, really. So I'll just pop that back on. And then, so if we're going to do it up, we go the other way. So you can see that it's that way. So we do them up like that. And then you can crack them with a hammer. Normally they're lead hammers you get in the toolkits. But anyway, that's it. That's the idea. But we can see on here in the centre, there's your hand symbol, the red right hand of God leading the way. So you can see that is Rudge. That is the thing, isn't it? So on the Rudge bicycles, it's the symbol they use. That's their trademark. And to which end, I'll get something to show you to prove that fact or enlighten that fact. So there you are. There's a chain set off a Rudge bicycle, and you can see they have the symbol there in the middle, and that's it. So there's also Irish folklore about this red right hand, which is about the chap in his coracle having a bet and a race to get to the island, and he was losing the race, and the other guy was getting ahead of him. So what he did is he got his sword out, cut his hand off, and threw it ahead of him onto the land. So he was the first to lay hands on the land. So the red right hand of God. And another little anecdote, the family crest of the Devannies is the red right hand of God, the Borrani thing. So I don't know, in the stars maybe, isn't it? Yeah, born into it, but not quite born into the Borrani Rudge dynasty. But there we are. But it's an evocative, very evocative name, the Rudge and Rudge motorcycles and so on. But that's a story for another day. But that's just a rough overview. There's obviously a lot more to it than that. But it's just roughly how they work and how this design of the 2 cones and then the splines and how important that is and how important these are tight. But this is on the ramp because I am actually replacing these hubs. So I'll show you a new hub. So there we go. So you can see sort of there where our, there's our taper, isn't it? Our cone, and in there it locks up on our other cone here, doesn't it? So that's the two cones that lock together, and that's how it works. So it's trapping them together, and as it goes up on this ramp, engineering terms, it basically that gives it a good friction fit. And then we got nice splines here in good condition, and I say they're more for your shear of the, as it goes round. But that's what it's all about. Until next week, and something else.